Sweden was once a simple Nordic country with a cold climate and a limited population. No huge markets, no large natural resources on which the entire economy depended. But today, this same Sweden is counted among the richest, innovative, and high standard of living countries in the world. What happened that this peaceful country became a powerhouse of technology, design, and global brands in just a few decades? So let's start this modern and inspiring journey of Sweden and know how it became one of the most successful countries in the world. Chapter 1. From farming to factory. Sweden was previously a country where about 90% of people relied on agriculture in the early 1800s. But gradually, the use of natural resources in the country, such as iron, timber, and other raw materials, began to increase, which led to the economy changing. By the 1870s, factories were built and a railway network was laid out, making it easier to make and deliver goods quickly and in large quantities. This increased productivity, and the country began to develop rapidly. Industrialization raised Sweden from a poor agricultural country to a strong and developed industrial country. Chapter 2. Workers and Politics. In Sweden, workers began to raise their voices for their rights in the late 19th century. In 1898, the Swedish Trade Union Confederation, a workers' organization, was formed. And in 1902, the Swedish Employers' Confederation, which represented employers. Later, together they created a compromise model called the Saltsjöbaden model, in which workers and companies negotiated and set wages and work rules. Along with this, there was also a change in politics. In 1917, a socialist ideology government came, and in 1921, women also got the right to vote. The effect of these social reforms was that people's incomes increased, spending increased, and the gap between rich and poor decreased. Workers' rights and better policies helped Sweden build a more equal and stronger economy. Chapter 3. The Post-War Miracle. Sweden took the path of rapid development after World War II. While many countries were recovering from the war, Sweden took full advantage of this time. At that time, the Social Democratic government introduced many essential facilities for the people, such as better health services, free or cheap education, pensions, and unemployment allowances. At the same time, the government invested heavily in roads, infrastructure, and factories, while private companies also increased production. Because of this, the country's economy began to grow rapidly, and by 1970, Sweden was counted among the richest countries in the world. At the same time, the government adopted policies that would provide jobs to more and more people and maintain all these facilities through high taxes. Sweden worked closely with both the government and the private sector, which led to economic growth and provided people with the facilities they needed to live a better life. This was the real reason for its success. Chapter 4. Crisis and Liberalization. Sweden suffered a major setback from the 1973 oil crisis. This crisis led to soaring inflation and slowing economic growth, adding to the pressure on the country in the 1970s. After this, in the 1980s, Sweden made major changes to its economy. The government began to open up financial markets, reform the banking system, and privatize some state-owned companies. This allowed new companies to grow and business began to grow. But with this boom came some risks, like property prices in Stockholm rose very sharply, creating a kind of bubble. This period taught Sweden that not only government control but also free markets and private investment are essential for economic development, but it is equally important to maintain a balance with them. Chapter 5. The Collapse and Reconstruction of the 1990s. Sweden saw a major economic crisis in the early 1990s. At that time, the financial markets were growing rapidly and a boom was underway, but suddenly this bubble burst. Banks suffered heavy losses, the value of the country's currency, the krona, fell, and the economy went into recession during 1992 to 1993. In these difficult times, the government took tough decisions such as reducing government spending, changing tax rates, and privatizing many state-owned companies. Initially, these decisions were difficult, but gradually the economy started improving. Sweden then benefited further from joining the European Union in 1995, as it increased foreign investment and opened up new business opportunities. Sweden did not allow the crisis to be defeated, but made it an opportunity where it rebuilt its economy strong and fast by making the necessary reforms. Chapter 6. Technology and Innovation. Sweden rapidly transformed itself as the world moved to the internet and technology. During this time, Ericsson achieved great success in the mobile telecom sector and built a strong share of the global market around 2000. At the same time, a new startup and innovation environment was created in the country, where companies like Skype and Spotify emerged. In addition, big companies like Volvo, ABB, and AstraZeneca also took the lead in research and development. The government also invested heavily in education and research, bringing R&D spending to about 3% of GDP. Sweden embraced technology and innovation over time, fostering new startups and establishing itself as a knowledge economy, which is why it is today counted among the most innovative countries in the world. Chapter 7: Financial Health and Corruption, Free Governance. Sweden has always handled its economic policies carefully. Here, the government paid attention to keeping the public debt low and controlling expenditure. After 1992, the Riksbank made its monetary policy more open and flexible, which helped to keep the economy stable. At the same time, Sweden's biggest strengths are its transparency and low corruption. Investor confidence grew due to clean policies and a strong system, which benefited both investment and growth in the country. Some tax relaxation after 1990 slightly widened the gap between the rich and the poor. But despite this, Sweden is still among the countries with low inequality among the OECD countries. One of the major reasons for Sweden's success is its clean, transparent, and balanced economic policies, which made it a strong and reliable economy. Chapter 8: The Labor Market and Social Security. Sweden's labor market operates on a special model called flexicurity, that is, flexibility at work and safety for employees. Here, the trade unions and the employers constantly negotiate and work together to decide the wages, terms of work, and facilities. If a person becomes unemployed, he is not only given money, but also help in retraining and getting a new job. The special thing is that even after economic reforms and liberalization, this partnership system remains strong. For this reason, the employment rate in Sweden is usually high and unemployment is relatively low. Even after the global economic crisis of 2008, this system helped to keep the country stable. When the country's workforce is safe, efficient, and capable, the entire economy grows rapidly, and that's a big reason for Sweden's success. Chapter 9: Population and Immigration. Sweden's population has grown significantly over time, from around 8.4 million in 1970 to around 10.6 million in 2025. The main reason for this increase is not the internal growth of the old times, but the increased foreign immigration after 1970. As of 2015, about 16% of Sweden's population was people who were born abroad. Sweden had a policy of adopting refugees and migrants, which kept it a young and working workforce, which proved beneficial to the economy. It also helped in increasing GDP. However, it also came with some challenges, such as learning the language for new people, getting a job, and assimilating into society. Immigration strengthened Sweden's economy, but at the same time created new challenges for maintaining social balance. Chapter 10: EU Membership and Global Economic Relations. Sweden joined the European Union in 1995, making it easier for it to trade with other European countries. Working according to EU rules made the country's economy more organized and competitive. However, Sweden retained its currency, the Swedish krona, because in the 2003 referendum, people refused to adopt the euro. Nevertheless, Sweden maintained a strong rapport with global markets. The advantage of globalization was that Swedish companies got new customers around the world. For example, IKEA achieved great success by selling its products internationally. However, EU regulations led to changes in some social and economic policies, which sometimes led to debates. Joining the EU gave Sweden a bigger market, more investment, and better trade opportunities, further strengthening its economy. Chapter 11: The Main Industrial Pillars. Sweden's economy today is largely based on exports, and it has some main industrial sectors. First of all, the forestry and pulp industries, which include companies like IKEA and Stora Enso, which produce wood and related products. The second is the automobile sector, where Volvo and Scania make their strong mark in Europe and around the world. In addition, companies like Ericsson and Spotify are operating globally in the tech and telecom sector. At the same time, in the pharma sector, companies like AstraZeneca and Pharmacia are at the forefront of research and medicines. The contribution of all these sectors is so large that almost 50% of Sweden's total GDP comes from exports. Sweden mastered certain industries and on the basis of them made its strong place in the world market. Chapter 12: Today's Sweden, Challenges and the Future. Sweden is a very developed and wealthy country today, with a GDP per capita of around $58,000 in 2025 and an unemployment rate of around 8%. Also, the economic institutions here are considered strong and trustworthy, which keeps the country's economy stable. But despite this, there are some big challenges. As compared to before, inequality is increasing again, there is a housing crisis in big cities, and the burden of home loans on people is also increasing. Moreover, an aging population may also create economic pressures in the future. To deal with these problems, the government is implementing new tax reforms and green policies so that the economy can be prepared for the future while keeping it stable. Sweden is a strong and prosperous country today, but it must face new challenges wisely to continue to succeed. If you enjoyed this enlightening journey, don't forget to like and subscribe to the video.